Explain how use tax and its effect on businesses.
High use tax is, to use the term sales tax, most people are familiar with the term sales tax. Most people understand when they purchase things, most things are subject to sales tax. So when you go to the store, you buy a product, you pay sales tax at the register. The use tax is no different. It's the exact same thing, except the burden rests with the taxpayer to pay the use tax. So let me give you an example. An example is in my business, if I were to purchase a computer over the internet and the vendor that I purchased the computer from did not charge me sales tax, well, that does not mean that tax is not due on that transaction. I, as a business owner, am then required to pay the use tax to the state of Ohio. So it's a transactional tax, and it really depends on if you are charged sales tax, and if you're not charged sales tax and it's a taxable transaction, well, the use tax is due. Okay? That affects every single business. Every business in the state of Ohio should have a use tax account. And every single business in the state of Ohio should be going through a process to look at their transactions to determine if they paid tax on those transactions. And if they didn't, they should be paying the use tax.
How does this affect businesses in the long term?
Okay. In the long term, the use tax has been around as long as the sales tax has, since the 1930s, okay? And there have been enforcement efforts, but it's mainly been enforced on larger businesses, okay? So for smaller businesses, this is in essence a new tax to these small businesses because they're not familiar with it, they don't understand what it is. And what this means in the long term is that businesses are going to have to start paying this use tax. Not only going to have to start paying it on a go-forward basis, but at some point in time, they're going to have to go back and pay prior year taxes. So over the long term, what does this mean? Companies need to be aware of it. They need to put procedures in place so that they can track, monitor, and pay the proper amount of use tax on a go-forward basis.
And how would they go about doing that? How would they go about setting up those procedures and making sure they're compliant with the state laws?
Sure. It really depends on a specific company's processes, but in its simplest sense, what has to happen is that a business needs to look at every single transaction that takes place under its roof. Okay, and it needs to make a taxability decision. They need to determine if tax was paid on that invoice, and if it was not, is there tax due? The least amount of time a business is going to be allowed to look back is 3 years. And some businesses keep excellent records, and that will be no problem. Other businesses do not keep such good records, and that by itself will be a challenge. If a company's not proactive, a 3-year look back is probably not realistic. They may have to look back 7 to 10 years. And even some of the best record keepers out there may not keep their records for 10 years. So that's a challenge by itself, of just capturing the data necessary to make the taxability decisions. The second challenge is understanding the sales and use tax laws, understanding if a particular transaction is actually subject to tax. There's over 100 exceptions that may not that may provide a taxpayer the ability to not pay tax on a particular transaction. So those two challenges can and will be very significant, I think, as companies take this project on.
Or why is it important to turn to a CPA firm such as Watson and Associates at this time to take care of this?
Sure. It's not a matter of if we get caught, it's a matter of when we get caught. And I'll just tell you, the Department of Taxation is currently undergoing a process. They have 300,000 businesses identified that have some other state tax registration, whether it be Ohio withholding tax, Ohio sales tax, Ohio commercial activity tax. So they've identified these businesses that have those particular accounts that do not have a use tax account. So they know who you are. It's a matter of time. So it's important to take a proactive approach in dealing with this. Again, a company can choose to do nothing, And if they do nothing, and if they were to be audited in the future, it's a lot more work. It's going to cost the taxpayer a lot more money. For example, you're going to have to look back 7 to 10 years. There'll be no break on penalties. They're not going to give you any breaks on interest. So therefore, it's important to get your arms around what you think your liability is, and it may not be large at all. But get it cleaned up, get it behind you, so that you can focus on running your business and not have to worry about back taxes.
How could Watson Associates help a business become compliant with the state's use tax?
You know, we can help in a number of ways. We, first of all, our firm has dedicated sales and use tax expertise. I myself have practiced in the sales and use tax area for 14 years. It's a very specialized area of tax law, so we can actually help taxpayers with the technical aspects of the tax. We also have valuable relationships within the Department of Taxation, and we work with them and we understand the process to help folks come forward, limit their look-back period, negotiate agreements on a no-name basis so that a taxpayer does not have to disclose their identity. We can work with the department to help come forward, pay the tax due, get it cleaned up, but then also help put procedures in place so that the taxpayer can then be compliant on a go-forward basis. They have the tools necessary to make sure that they have no issues in the future.